This video is sponsored by OBSBOT. At first glance, this may look like a super-sized webcam, and although it certainly offers that function, it's actually much more than that and has the potential to be a super useful creative tool. But before I dive into all of that good stuff, I do want to clarify that although OBSBOT have kindly offered to help support the channel by sponsoring this video, part of me agreeing to making this video in the first place was that I was allowed to review it completely honestly and openly, and the people at OBSBOT don't get to redact or alter any of my own personal thoughts and opinions on their product. But regardless, before buying any kind of tech online, you should always do your research and watch multiple different reviews so that you have a broader scope of opinions, and that will better help you to decide for yourself whether this is actually something that's going to benefit you or not. Anyway, this is the OBSBOT Tail Air, and it's the company's latest AI-powered camera that has a bunch of state-of-the-art features that the company claims will aid content creators with a whole range of jobs. Now, in terms of hardware, it has a fast 23mm f1.8 lens on the front, which means it should be fairly good in low light, but we'll obviously test that a bit later on. And behind that, it houses an 8.4 megapixel 1/1/8 inch CMOS sensor that can capture 4K footage up to 30 frames per second or 1080 HD footage up to 60 frames per second. Now, given the fact that this thing is battery powered, it means that it can be used remotely too, allowing up to 136 minutes of continuous recording from a single charge. But if that's not long enough for you, you can actually purchase a 360-degree rotation charging base, which will not only further extend the battery life of it up to 7 hours of continuous recording, but it also allows for full 360-degree tracking. So why would you ever need that feature? Well, if you're a solo content creator with no friends, like me, then sometimes it can be hard to find willing volunteers to help you record video when you're out and about on location. This OBSBOT Tail Air potentially solves that problem because it's essentially a miniature camera operator that you can fit in your backpack. But what do I mean by that? Well, as I mentioned at the start, this has a bunch of AI-powered features, including the ability to track humans, objects, and animals. So you can just set this little guy down, and when you're out recording, it'll happily pan around and track your movements, which in practice works very well. The flat-weighted base on the bottom here will mean that it sits happily on a nearby wall in a pinch, but there's also a tripod thread on the bottom here, allowing you to mount it to a more stable tripod. Now, one thing I should mention is that there's no option to shoot footage in a flat picture profile. So this means that when you're shooting outdoors on a particularly bright sunny day, you will need to be careful that you don't blow out the highlights. Luckily though, OBSBOT does have this set of 4 ND filters available for purchase for around $60, which come in this very nice carry case and also snap onto the front of the camera with built-in magnets, which is very fancy.
Suit you, sir.
So you may have noticed that other than this single button on the back, there aren't any manual controls or dials on this unit itself. So how do you operate it? Well, rather predictably, most of the control is done via the OBSBOT app, which is available for both Android and iOS. From here, you can not only adjust the camera's settings, but you can also start and stop recording, as well as being able to monitor your footage too. Though I should also mention there is actually a micro HDMI output on the side here for attaching an external monitor if you prefer to view things that way. All in all though, I found that the app was very easy to use and beginner friendly. But if you don't want to keep having to pick your phone up and put it back down again each time you want to record, then you don't really have to, because this camera also is able to recognize a whole bunch of hand gestures too. For example, if I make the OK hand gesture, it'll automatically start or stop recording to the internal micro SD card. If I show a flat hand, this will activate human tracking mode so that the camera will follow me around, and then to exit out of this mode, I just show a flat hand once again. Although there's no optical zoom on this camera, it does at least have a 4x digital zoom, and if I want a tighter crop, I can just show the international sign for "you're a total loser," and it will punch in 2 times to the loser in front of the camera, which always happens to be me for some reason. But if you want more control over this zoom function, you can just do this gesture and it will allow you to zoom in and out more dynamically. But how do you know if the gestures have actually been recognized with the camera without having to look at your phone all the time? Well, there's actually a really handy status indicator light on the front here that will flash to confirm it has recognized your commands. Although there is a built-in microphone, you can also insert an external mic via the input on the back, which I would highly recommend if you want to achieve the best possible audio quality. In terms of image quality, I mean, I'll let you judge that, because personally I think that for a camera this size, the 4K footage is actually nice and crisp and offers nice colors and plenty of detail. But how does it handle in low light? Because I'm keen to see whether this f1.8 lens is really up to the job. Well, pretty good actually. I mean, you obviously wouldn't want to film in the dark with this thing, but but for shots where you want to use moody lighting, then this is certainly up to the job. Now, this thing has a 2-axis gimbal built into it, which OBSBOT says that can make it a potentially good choice for vlogging as well. But after trying this out for myself, I personally don't think this is enough stabilization for vlogging, especially if you're walking around with it, so I feel like this might be a bit of a stretch. Now, obviously, this camera can also be used for streaming too, and allows you to link up to 3 tail airs together for multiple cam setups. And you can even stream to various platforms like YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live straight from the mobile app, or using NDI support for higher quality streams. Now, all of that is well and good, but how much does it cost? Well, currently this is retailing for just under $500, which may seem a little bit pricey for a webcam, but when you consider that this has the potential to handle all of your streaming, on-location recording, and could even be used as an A-cam for your studio shots, this is definitely a very interesting little camera that's worth considering for any avid content creator.